Midlands. And I'm thrilled to have so many of y'all with us this morning. A quick run of show. I'm going to have my colleagues introduce themselves as well. I'll walk us through a short slide deck, and then Will is going to give a quick intro into EC Impact for those who are new to us or just to serve as a refresher. And then we will have an opportunity for questions at the end. So I will turn it over to Jennifer if you'll introduce yourself to the group, please.
Sure. Good morning. It's great to see so many folks on the call. Jennifer Moore. I oversee our community work here at United Way.
Great. And Will, if you'll do the same, please.
Hi, everybody. My name is Will Price. I'm the Community Impact Administrator here at United Way. And you can know me as the person to go to for any of your EC Impact database needs. I've probably messaged with people on here before about some of those things. But yeah, any questions or issues that you might run into on EC Impact, please reach out to me.
Great. All right, so I'm going to walk us through a quick slide deck. And Will, if you will let me know when you can see my screen, that would be great. All right, can you see that, Will?
Your screen, yes.
Okay, great. All right. And just a quick reminder, if everyone could check to make sure they're on mute, that would be great. Thank you. All right, so we are here this morning to talk about our 2023 to 2024 investment opportunities. Hard to believe we are already at this point, but time is flying. So nonetheless, here we are. So we have, for the upcoming grant year, we have two focus areas, and that is our competitive funding. That is the annual funding that we will talk about today in detail. We also have some special funding categories to include our capacity building grants, which fall under my colleague Elliot Epps, who is our Director of Leadership and Capacity, and also our two-generation approach to pathways out of poverty. We're not going to dig into these in detail today, but I would ask if anyone is interested in learning more about these opportunities, if you would just reach out to myself or Will, and we will get you connected to the appropriate staff person to learn more about those. So like I said, today we're just going to talk about the competitive funding categories, and we will talk further about the strong safety net and building resiliency and what that means in terms of the grants this year. So with the competitive funding opportunity, like previous years, you will apply through the EC Impact database. Will is going to show us in a bit how to access those applications. But if you're new to the system, or perhaps you're with an agency that has colleagues on the system, but you yourself you're not set up in the system, will be your touch point to get you set up and ready to go. A couple tweaks I want to underscore for this year's application process. Unlike previous years, we will not be requiring a letter of intent. This is in an effort to simplify the process and remove a step for our agencies. And the other small tweak is that we have moved the timeline up slightly in the calendar year. You might, as if you're a previous applicant, you might remember that in years past you applied more so, applications opened in March, and then we're due about a month later in April. In an effort to give agencies more time with the applications, we've moved this up by a few weeks. So applications went live February 1st, which was last week, and they will close on March 15th by 5 p.m. So that's a full 6 weeks with the application open. So we're hopeful that that is enough time to submit really great materials this year. Grant awards will be announced by May 23rd, which is after our board of directors gives their final blessing on those grant awards, and then the grants would begin July 1st. And between May and July, if awarded, you would be working closely with Will to complete the grant contracts and agreements. Like previous years, the grants are 1 year in term. They are distributed monthly via direct deposit. Fortunately, we don't have to worry about any reimbursable grants or anything. It's just an easy monthly payment. We do ask, however, that funded agencies submit quarterly expenditure reports, and that's really for our internal purposes to make sure that programs and agencies are on track, and that if we need to make any adjustments with the agency, we can do that proactively, opposed to at the end of the grant year when we don't have much time left. So to apply for this pot of funding, you must be a certified United Way of the Midlands partner agency in good standing. If you have any questions about what your status is, or want more information about this, please let us know and we will connect you with Elliot. He oversees the partnership process. So let us know if you need more information about that. There is a single application across all eligible activities. Again, this is in an effort to simplify the process. And so as Will walk through in a few minutes, all applicants will access the application in the same way and use the same application. Applications are tiered based on the amount requested. And we do this because if you're asking $10,000, we think we don't need quite the same level of information from you as perhaps someone who's asking $200,000. There's not a huge difference in the length, but those who are in our higher tier, which is tier 3, we do have a few additional questions that we ask you to complete. When you get into the system, you'll see that you will select from a catalog of United Way outcomes and indicators, as has been the case in previous years. And if you want a preview of these outcomes and indicators, these exist at the end of the request for proposal or RFP packet. And we do this so we have some consistency through the data that we are collecting from all of our different awardees. This year, we'll have a funding cap of $200,000 per organization. And I would add that a grant of this size is not the norm. So just keep that in mind as you are determining the amount that you will request. With that said, we are open to funding operating, administrative, and/or programmer support. We recognize that it can be challenging to find operating dollars. So we want to fund whatever y'all need. We do ask that you justify whatever it is you're asking for, so we can really understand the need and how it can be an asset to your operations and your agency. So we hope that that's helpful as y'all are pursuing this opportunity. Next, we ask that you maintain a healthy mix of funding, and by this we mean that United Way, prefers not to be the majority funder of a program, or if it's a small agency, of the organizational budget. And we say this with the consideration of sustainability in mind. For example, if we were to be the majority funder of your program for 1 year and then the next year you were not to receive a grant from us, we would worry about the long-term health of that program. And then last but not least, we are giving preference points for projects that are based in or serving our Greater Midlands area. And this is discussed in the RFP as well. This is in an effort to make sure that we are supporting our agencies that are not in the direct metro area. So in terms of our competitive funding categories for the year, if you participated in the process last year, these will look familiar because they remain the same. These funding categories are grounded in our 2021 community assessment, which is available on the ua.org website if you would like to learn more about that. And we're using the framework of safety net and building resiliency. So as you can see, safety net are those programs that are really addressing the basic needs of our community members. And then moving along the continuum of need, once basic needs are met and we're moving slightly more upstream, that's where we get into the building resiliency programming. If you don't see yourself represented in these activities, please let us know and we're happy to talk about that. But if you were an applicant last year and chances are you will fit into these again this year. We are excited that we have an opportunity, a funding opportunity through our Women in Philanthropy engagement network, formerly known as our an affinity group. So Women in Philanthropy is a group of United Way of the Midlands donors and volunteers who are interested in investing in the financial stability of women and women with children. Specifically, they prioritize those who are experiencing economic instability. And so this is part of the larger application. This is not a separate application you would complete, but rather on the main application, pretty early on in the main narrative part, there you'll encounter a box that asks if you would like to be considered by WIP for their grants. It's a simple checkbox for yes or no. And if you select yes, then we ask you to just fill out a few sentences as to how your program aligns with WIP's funding priority. The group has up to $50,000 this year to award to one or more than one grants. And in my mind, if you do align with WIP, there's really no disadvantage to opting in to this opportunity, because what will happen is those who select yes to be considered by WIP, we will take your applications and they will go in front of a group of WIP members for consideration. If WIP selects you for funding at your full amount, that's great. The grant award will be coming. If you are not selected or not selected to the full amount of your grant request, then we will take your application, put it back into the general pool of applicants to be reviewed by our non-WIP grant reviewers. So like I said, it's all one process. This is just an additional opportunity to potentially opt into. I do want to emphasize that there are a couple benefits with this, and that is that WIP comes with an army of really high capacity, capable women that can offer volunteer support to your agency during the grant year. And it also comes with some really great marketing exposure. The flip side of that is that we ask that if you apply for WIP, that you are thinking about how can you create a meaningful volunteer opportunity for them during the year. So we hope that if you fit within the WIP's focus area, that you will consider putting your name in for WIP funding. All right, just a few tips or tricks that we hope will be helpful for y'all as you're putting your materials together. And these are just some themes or some reoccurring issues or challenges that we have seen over the years with applications. So the first thing I want to highlight is that our grants are scored by trained community volunteers. And this has been the case for many years. And many of our volunteers are longtime United Way volunteers. So they participate in this process year after year. And those who are new to the process, we train them before they participate. And I say this as a reminder to just keep this audience in mind. They are highly capable, very good at this, reviewers for us. But if an application is written with perhaps someone who is in the field that you exist in, and it's really technical, or it has a lot of acronyms and jargon, like bullet 2 mentions, our volunteers can struggle with that, just because that's not what they live and breathe every day. So I urge you to write clearly and concisely, and if there's something that perhaps borders on being jargony, that you just take, a few words, a sentence to explain what that means. An example could be, if you're in the SEL space, many people on this call might know that that is social emotional learning, but for someone that is not in health and human services, it would be beneficial to just give a really quick explanation of that. applications that score the highest are those that paint the fullest picture of your agency and what you do for our volunteers. So like I said, please try to avoid acronyms and jargon. These are dedicated volunteers who are doing this over their lunch break or at night when their children have gone to bed. So the less work you create for them, the better. So if they don't, it's better if they don't have to go look up what an acronym might mean, for example. We ask that you be as detailed as possible on your budget request. Our reviewers are really intentional and mindful stewards of donor dollars. And so they want to be able to understand how every piece of your budget request is going to, how that's going to be spent. So for example, if you're requesting supplies and you're requesting $10,000 worth of supplies, how did you come to that $10,000 number? Same thing if you're requesting staff costs, how did you get to that number? What is the equation or calculation for that FTE position that you're requesting to support? As I mentioned earlier, the healthy mix of funding, and this is a consideration both for staff, but also our volunteers really do pick up on this. If you're requesting 100% of an FTE, that's going to probably be a red flag for them, and it has been in the past. So just something to keep in mind, both healthy mix with the program budget, but then also within the budget itself, a healthy mix. So we're not 100% of something that needs to be sustained. We ask that you request only the essential resources needed. There's a lot that goes into this process, and we're on a fairly tight time frame to get this to the board in May. So we don't have time to come back and negotiate amounts. So please just be mindful of that. And then last, probably goes without saying, but applications that are submitted that are outside of the guidelines will be considered non-responsive and not reviewed by volunteer scores. And again, this is really for our timeline's sake. Once applications are in, we have to get them to our volunteers pretty quickly. So we don't have time to go back and make edits and whatnot. All right. So in terms of your primary contacts throughout this application process, please reach out to me if you have any questions about program narrative, budget, and then will be your best resource for the EC impact piece. We will be as available to y'all as possible. We want to hear from you if you have questions. So please use us as a resource. In years past, applicants that do reach out to staff and ask their questions tend to do better. So we will do as much as we can to ensure that all of our applicants submit the best application possible. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Will to walk us through EC Impact, and then we'll have an opportunity for questions.
Sorry, and Isabel, we do have a question in the chat that we can come to after I go through this real quick. But yeah, thank you again for everyone being on. If you give me just a moment, I'm going to share my screen. All right, Isabel, can you see what I'm sharing?
I see the United Way homepage.
That's exactly where I want to be, so thank you. All right, and I figured I'd just go ahead and show everyone remind you how you can get to the EC Impact page. If you have it bookmarked, great, or if you have a link in an email, that's also great. But just as a friendly reminder to everyone, if you are looking for that EC Impact login page, if you go to United Way's homepage, that's uwa.org, go to menu and nonprofits, and then if you scroll down right in here, you have the section for community impact partners. And look, there's a little blurb about the grant process being open with your links to the RFP document and also links to email Isabel or myself. And then right here, you have the button for partner login. That's going to take you to the EC Impact login page for the agency site. And I'm going to log in under a test profile here. So you put in your username and your password, and if you have forgotten what either of those are, you can either use the forgot your password link, or you can email me and I'll help you out. That's not an uncommon thing. So I can help get you logged in if you're having trouble with that. Then we'll log in to the EC Impact page, and this will be for your specific agency. This should look familiar to everyone. And right now we are here on the homepage for this UWM demo agency that I'm currently running. And if you've applied before, it's going to be very similar to Find It. On the left-hand navigation panel, you have this section for Apply Report, and right underneath it, it says Applications for 2023-2024 Impact Grant Funding are now open. Click here to apply, and you do just that. You click on that link, and it's going to, I'm going to show you how we walk through the process. A few steps might seem a little redundant, but it's just the way it's set up in the system, and I apologize for that. But this is indicating that we want to apply for impact grant application. So we say continue. And then I'm going to click complete registration. And this is now said that we are automatically approved to go through with the application process. And so that might be a little bit different from previous years where you've gone through this process and it takes you to a LOI document that you would then submit to United Way, and then you would be assigned an application. We are just bypassing that process this year. So this is once you go through the registering for the impact grant application, you will automatically have access to that application. So you don't have to wait on anyone to email you back. You can go ahead and get started right away. And so I'm going to click continue. And this is going to take me back to my home page. So now you can see up at the top, I have this new section that says grant application or client entry. And that has a link underneath it. That is where I'm going to click to go start the application process. So I'll go ahead and do that. And here we are. So this left hand, you'll notice there's like two sets of instructions right here. The left hand instructions, those are just in general for completing the application. This instruction on the right is telling you that you must create a new program record in EC Impact to access this application. And so this is not a new thing. We have in the past always asked for agencies to create a new program for that grant cycle that they're applying for. So same thing here. So what you're going to do is on the next to this plus button, it says create a new program or client. You can ignore all the client pieces. That's for something unrelated to impact grants. So create a new program is what we're going to do. And I'm just going to make a quick one. Look, there's already one that says test program. We do ask that when you're naming your new program that you include the year for the application. So I'm calling this a test program, and since it's for my 2023-2024 application, I would call it test program 2023-2024. Fairly simple, and it fits in with what we've done in the past as well. I'm going to skip all this just for the sake of time, but please do fill out the information that's applicable for your program. And I'm going to say, come to the bottom and say save complete registration, and complete registration once again. So now it's giving me a confirmation that I have registered this program with it, and I'm going to say continue. And now it's going to immediately take me to the application, which this should look familiar. We have our forms down underneath, all of which will need to be completed as different components of this application. And also, if you have to log out for any reason, you can save and come back at any point. So you will not, as long as you're saving your work, you will not be losing any of your progress that you're making. And then your application will not be submitted until you save all your work and mark it as completed, and then click that final submit button. So you don't have to worry about accidentally submitting. There's a few fail safes to make sure that doesn't happen. But if you have to leave, next time you log in, you'll come back to your home page. It's already going to be right back at the top of the screen again. You'll also have it here under the apply report section. You'll have like a little progress meter to show you how much you've completed, how much you have left. And also, if you look back into the left-hand navigation panel where we started, the link to apply is now gone, but now you have a new line item for fiscal year 2023-2024, and it has your impact grant application there as well. So there are multiple places where you can access this, which is very helpful. But if you ever find yourself confused or not sure where your application went, or if you're just having difficulty with any of the forms, please contact me. I'd be happy to help. That's what I'm here for. And again, there are those 4 forms. I'm not going to go form by form right now, because I feel like I would get very wordy and make things very confusing. So I'm not going to do that. But if you have questions along the way, I'm definitely here to help. And with that, I'm going to pass back to Isabel.
Great. Thank you, Will. So I'm going to, Adrian asked if I would pull up the building resiliency focus area slide again. So I will do that. And while I am pulling this up, but also open the floor for any other questions folks might have. And if and when you come off mute to ask a question, if you would just say your name and what agency you're representing, just so that your face will come up on the screen, because we have a fairly large group this morning. And Adrian, this is also available. This language is also in the RFP document, which should have been sent out via the system. And also it lives on the United Way website. All right. Any questions out there? And like I said, if you have a question that's super specific for your program, we are available to schedule a time and talk about it more in detail if it's not applicable to the full group. So please reach out if that's the case. But any questions out there about the process in general, or perhaps about any of the changes we made, small changes we made for this year's timeline and process?
Isabel, Janet has a question in the staff. Janet, I think that could possibly fall under healthcare. I would encourage you to reach out to Isabel, maybe to talk about what you're looking to do. And again, just a reminder to everybody, we do want program related questions to go to Isabel, technology, EDC impact questions to go to Will. So if you, for some reason, can't find either one of them, you can find me, but please do not reach out to other staff. We're trying to have consistency in our responses back to agencies. So.
And on a good day, you might get both Will and myself, which would be a lot of fun. All right. I don't want to rush folks. Oh, yep, Amy.
Yeah, I do have a question. This is Amy from Healthy Learners. So if we are a current grantee, and would you entertain proposals for sort of continuing on the same project if we haven't quite gotten to, sustainability?
Yes, I think definitely. I think if you were able to effectively communicate how you're continuing to build on the previous year, I think that would be a compelling case. I say that with a caveat that we really do consider our grants to be 1 year in term, not renewals. And so it's really a reset for us every year. So we just put that out there to keep in mind. But I think if you're able to make the case as to how you're building on this past year's success moving forward, I think that would make a lot of sense for your application.
All right, Isabel, we have a few things in the chat.
Yep.
Let's see. Terry's asking, can an agency become a partner agency prior to funding deadline?
Jennifer, I'll defer to you on that. I'm not sure what Elliot's timeline is right now.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Terry. So we are Working with potentially three potential agencies that are going through partnership process right now. They started that process a couple months ago with us. What I would encourage you to do is to have them reach out to Elliot Epps, and you can find his information on the website. He can give the checklist of the criteria for partner agency status and talk through the program. It's not insurmountable, but we are kind of up on the deadline right now. So just reach out to Elliot.
And thank you for the question. And I also see, will the PowerPoint be sent out? Yes, we can do that to those who joined us. And we also have a recording we can send out as well if that would be helpful. But we'd be happy to share the materials. And a lot of the language is also in that RFP document, in different bits and pieces, but we'll definitely get the materials out. So we have a question in the chat from Sean. It asks, under housing outcomes, if proposing homelessness prevention, how is it counted? Sean, if you're able, could you come off mute and just say a little bit more about what you're thinking there? And if now's not a great time, I'm happy to connect with you.
No, you're fine.
Oh, okay.
Hi, good morning. I'm gonna
Good morning.
put my picture up too. Trying to multitask. Good morning, everyone. So I'm actually sitting in for Kate Paulino, our grant writer, and she actually proposed the question. So I'm asking on her behalf, but pretty much what she's saying is that if that is what we're going for as an outcome, and we're trying to also be quick on the chart, how do you, if we're putting people into housing, how do you count that as an outcome, is what she says. Does that not make sense?
It does. I would ask her to refer to the end of the RFP document, which has our catalog of outcomes and indicators. It's, as I recognize her name, so I think she was in the system last year as well.
Yes.
That's going to look really similar to last year. So I would ask her to start there, and then if that doesn't answer her question, I would be happy to schedule a time to talk. Will and myself could schedule a time to talk to her more about that.
Okay. And then just, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I was just
No,
say
I was just continuing to read the rest of her question. And she was just saying that moving them from homelessness to permanent housing. And then what would be considered permanent housing, meaning if we put housing people in shared living situations, long-term housing, is that considered permanent housing for this grant?
I'm seeing, I was going to defer to you, Jennifer, our long-term housing expert.
Stable housing, yes.
Okay, perfect.
For the foreseeable future, yes, not a temporary situation like a boarding house or anything like that.
Right, not transitional housing, but permanent, and it can be shared. Okay.
Yep.
I'll tell her what you said, Isabel, about the other part, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's nice to see you, Sean.
Nice to see you too.
Any other questions out there?
Hey, this is Tim from the Boys Farm. Just a quick question about funding. Is it total funding or rejection, or is there ever partial funding? I know you mentioned that there's not a time for negotiation about amounts, but
yep.
Let me clarify that.
So there is the possibility that an agency might receive a partial funding award if we're not able to grant them the full amount that they request.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
Yep.
Thank you.
So that's definitely a possibility. It's all dependent on how the scores come in, and simultaneously our VP of Finance and our Finance Committee, they will be diligently working on our budgeting for the next year. So this is
right.
We'll know more shortly. But yep, partial grant awards are a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. Any final questions for the group?
I have a question. I'm going to go back because I had a moment to go back and read. And I'm sorry, this was a last minute thing. So that's why I'm like scrambling a little bit. But as I just go back to her original question. So when we're talking homelessness prevention, so if we say pay rent for someone under that category, that would prevent them from being evicted, that would be a count, correct?
When you say that would be a count, do you mean?
I mean, we would be able to count that as an outcome because we actually prevented someone from becoming homeless. Yes?
If you prevented the eviction and they were stable in housing, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, good.
Yes.
Actually, if I read this, I probably could have answered her question.
That's okay. That's what we're here for.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Any final questions out there? All right. Well, no one has anything urgent or that comes to mind in this moment, I should say. Thank y'all so much for joining us this morning. We will be sending out the materials to everyone on the call. And like I said, Will and I are available for the many questions that might come up at a later date. So please reach out. I would say that as we get closer and closer to the deadline, our ability to get back to you is going to be more challenging. So the earlier you can get us your questions, the better. But I know that sometimes that is the reality that we're down to the deadline. So we just ask that take a look at the materials soon and let us know what questions you have. And thank y'all for joining us. It's great to see so many faces with us this morning. So hope y'all have a great rest of your day, and we look forward to receiving your materials by March 15th at 5 p.m. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Have a good one. Will, I'm just going to make sure I download the participant report.